Patterson Foundation
strengthens people, organizations, and communities by focusing on issues that address mutual aspirations,
foster wide participation, and encourage learning and sharing.
Welcome to Aspirations to Actions, a Beyond the Bod podcast of the Patterson Foundation, also known as TPF. I'm Alicia Chalmers, a TPF consultant and your host for today. We're here today to talk about growing together, North River. And with me today is Cheri Coryea, a person who's lived, worked, and played in Manatee County, especially North River, for over 35 years, 30 years being in Manatee County government, and now she leads the Aspirations to Actions initiative with the Patterson Foundation. Welcome, Cheri.
Thank you, Alicia. It's so great to be here, especially to talk about growing together and in North River, my favorite place.
Yes. Bishop Parker Foundation, the Patterson Foundation, and the Harwood Institute for Public Innovation are investing in a multi-year initiative to catalyze community-led change in North River Manatee County. This initiative focuses on the issues that matter most to people and working to strengthen civic culture and how people, organizations, and leaders grow and work together to get things done while shaping a shared future. Let's start with a little bit of history for our listeners today and a little bit of geography. So you've lived and worked in Manatee County for 35 years, right?
Yeah.
So, but what is North River Manatee County?
Yeah.
So what and where is that area?
Yeah, good question. Think about the river, so Manatee River, and in this instance, talking about North River, it's everything that's north of the Manatee River. So not Bradenton, but across the bridge into Palmetto. You're working all the way from the water, Sneed Island, all the way Emerson Point, all the way to Rabonia, around. You kind of loop around. You hit Palmetto, go all the way through there into the area of Memphis, also Terracea over there, and then into Parish. And how do you define Parish now? It's really a big area. It's growing. We're going to talk about that, I'm sure, today. And then all the way out to DeWitt. Such a great agricultural area of the community.
Mm-hmm. Wonderful. I hear it's one of the fastest growing regions in Florida, probably the U.S.
Yes.
Yes.
It has been even the fastest. Right now, a lot of building going on. Right now, about 30,000 more residential units are already there, with about 30,000 more on the books. So you can imagine how busy, how hectic, how different to some and brand new to others it is.
Growing quickly. So tell our listeners how the Patterson Foundation and Bishop Parker Foundation chose to invest in North River Manatee County.
Yeah, so the Patterson Foundation has had a really long relationship with the Harwood Institute. And the Harwood Institute for Public Innovation has worked with our Aspirations to Action initiative probably since around 2008, even before that. And Deborah Jacobs, our lead and our CEO here at the Patterson Foundation, also came in contact with Wendy Deming, who at the time was a relatively new CEO for the Bishop Parker Foundation. They started talking about a project that we've been working on in DeSoto County, just to the east of us here, and really started talking about how in Manatee County, every little community north of the river sort of seemed to be forgotten. However, with the growth, so many new people coming in and so many different assets that really existed there, and there's been some concern with the citizens that their voice hasn't been heard. There were some unusual things happen through their county government, their commission. They've gone without a commissioner now twice, unfortunately. And so the individuals were showing up to the county commission meetings. They were talking about how they've been forgotten. Some of the natural disasters, some of the storms have in fact impacted them greatly with, water and some things that had happened. So all of a sudden, everyone north of the river was standing up with their hand up saying, we really want to be involved in the future here, and that's why we need you. And so it was wonderful that the Patterson Foundation and Bishop Parker Foundation came together and saw that need.
That's wonderful, especially to strengthen the community. And I know we both would agree that people, citizens, are at the heart of community action and solutions and coming together to really make that community change.
We do, and they're the North River folks. I mean, I think a lot of times you hear the word resilient used for groups of people, and I would say that's definitely a good description of folks that lived in North River, but they don't want to just be resilient. They're ready to thrive. They're ready to come together. It's a big area, but things are happening so fast to them, in their everyday lives. And I would probably suspect most people have a lot of concern about traffic. And so as the traffic started to really impact where they could go, when they could go, how they could get there, people started really noticing it and trying to figure out what was happening.
That's great. And speaking of really trying to figure it out, can you share with us how the Harwood Institute of Public Innovation got involved in being a valued partner?
Yeah.
I know that the Patterson Foundation has worked with the Harwood Institute and Rich Harwood, the founder, since 2012, I believe. So share with us, our audience, about that.
Yes. Any time that we at the Patterson Foundation have really started to work deeply in community, going right out to the people and being part of conversations has been really the key. And the Harwood Institute for Public Innovation, that's really one of the ways they start working with a community. And so we really started working in November of 25, so not that long ago, having Rich Harwood and his team come to town, sort of meet the community. And that's really key, Alicia, is we meet people where they are. It's easy to have a meeting and call folks in and nobody shows up and you say they don't care, but we know that's not true, right?
That's right.
We know that meeting people where they are is the best way to make them feel comfortable, to show them that you care. And so we started off with roundtables with the Harwood Institute and really kind of introducing them to the community. They're not a consultant. They're actually here to help guide and do the work, and the research team was listening. And that's really key to this whole concept of growing together, which is listening to the community. Where does the community stand now? And I think that's one of the important keys I'd make today, and that is that you really have to determine where folks' minds are at the moment before we really start to move forward. It's like, where do I stand? What really matters to me? How do I know what is happening? How do I know what isn't happening? And so through those first roundtables and then starting conversations in the community is how that process begins. And so as we listened hard to everyone. We really some really key things started to formulate and resonate across North River in all parts, like I mentioned earlier, all the way from Emerson Point to Duet. Yeah.
That's a big geographic area.
Yeah.
And most importantly, it's very unique and diverse communities. And having that widespread participation in all areas and hearing from all voices, I know so much of that was done through the work of the conversations and roundtables, right?
Yeah, it was. You said it, very diverse, to very important agricultural land in the Duet community and out in Parish, to where it's really that landscape has changed dramatically in the last 3 or 4 years, to the point where people are very concerned that they're going to lose that aspect of why they even moved in that area. And then to our beautiful, parks, Emerson Point, Palmetto. I was thinking about some things in North River, and I thought this was really interesting. As the river is really sort of as kind of ground zero in all of this, right? It's everything north of the river. I was thinking back to the historical value that a lot of people probably don't really know there, and that is that some of the homes right there along the Manatee River there north in Palmetto are Sears and Roebuck homes. They were ordered out of a catalog so far back, and they're there. And so that history of it being sort of the busiest place in the area where people landed, where all the commerce was, to now how it appears that, everything is growing and more modern, but there's such a diversity of history and modernization in this North River community that it's really important that we can work with the community to find that shared value, because everyone comes from somewhere, and there's history everywhere, but everyone wants to grow. People want to do it, and so that's why you keep hearing us say, let's do it together. Yeah.
Well, having that where newcomers learn about the history, and where the longtime residents, many generations, we've heard that 4th, 5th generation Floridians to that area are able to share that, is a wonderful way to come together. So speaking of coming together, the new report has been released, which we have a copy here.
Yeah.
Growing Together, North River Manatee County, Shaping a Shared Future. So it's recently released. You can find it in English and Spanish. So share with us the findings of that report, and I know it's been shared with the community, and how it's been received.
Yeah, I think the biggest thing that you hear in this report, again, are the voices of the community. One important thing about how the Harwood Institute has worked with communities across the country is they're not just here to write a report, listen to things, put it in their own words. These are the words of people that participated in the conversations. And for those of us that went to all of the conversations, over 20, we can recognize those voices. And you can see how important it is for folks to know they were heard. And so the report lays out some pretty key findings. And important thing to know is that a lot of it's not a surprise. It's just being written down, but it's being said by people that live in the community. And so number one is obviously the growth. People are concerned about the growth. People know that growth is going to happen, but more thoughtful growth, more thoughts about how people can work together without losing their identity, especially the really historical part of Palmetto and Parish and how that can weave together. And then also healthier discourse amongst the community. This was very, very evident from the standpoint, I think I said earlier, there have been a couple times now when this particular community district for the county government has been without representation. Once just from a change, and then secondly, unfortunately, from the passing of Carol Feltz, who was a commissioner who had come on here recently, only was able to serve 2 terms, but she brought forward, really the voice of the community. So now there they are again, without what they feel might be a voice in where leaders make decisions. And so that really came out in the report. I think a lot of that, though, Alicia, was due to new people not knowing the difference between where they might have came from and how local government is run here in Florida, especially in Manatee County, and the fact that in North River, there's just one city government, Palmetto, City of Palmetto. So it's a big area, like you said. Representation has to go directly to the county commission. And so we heard that a lot, but then also how people want to work together. And I think that's where that shaping the future together came from. And especially because with our Aspirations to Action initiative, that's really how we work together. Is that just not forcing things, but learning the path forward, hoping that people can find important areas to grow together. And there are so many exciting things that are going to be able to be happening by all of them working together.
Well, speaking of that, part of that is strengthening civic culture and bringing hope for all of those things you mentioned. Healthy discourse and what that looks like, and being able to come together and have those conversations. So you mentioned that nothing was surprising in the report. How was it received? Because I know you did a lot of roundtables with different leaders, with the community. How's it? And I know it's recently released, but how has it been received by those pockets? And share a little bit about those.
Yeah,
groups.
It was received well, and I think the neat thing to think about is I think even the Harwood Institute, Rich mentioned that it was a little different here because in many places when the Harwood Institute has worked with communities, there's been some discourse amongst the school district, amongst the government, amongst different pockets of people. But here, the school district was really seen as going in the right direction, which was wonderful, especially given that one of the primary areas of people's interest is youth, and how youth both can understand the community, contribute to these communities. Like, there's some amazing youth. We had a conversation, Alicia, with youth from Palmetto and Parish High School together, and it was really uplifting from the standpoint of how they see their contribution and how they care about their communities. And they were really kind of intrigued by each other too, because they wanted to know more, and just seeing that just really makes the Aspirations to Actions work that much more valuable for our team, because we really know that there's a lot of work to be done. So that healthier discourse was taken just a little bit differently, as you might think. People were happy to see in writing that the report wasn't afraid to center that as one of the primary issues. And then now what will happen will be that there'll be work done to try to create a better sense of how people can either speak out together, work together. And what happens, of course, that we all hope over the next 3 years is that as these groups can come together and work in an environment with Growing Together North River, they can actually see wins. They can see wins that they can make together. They can see the small wins. They can grow those to bigger wins, and then they can learn to trust each other. But I think one key thing I've got to mention is it takes time. Change takes time. It's trusting everyone. It's knowing that you're in it for the right reason. It's knowing that you're there because you all care about a community, a place, your environment, but you're bringing your assets to help make it grow. So it was actually received really well. Some people were surprised because while they felt some of these things, they didn't know other people felt the same way. And when that starts to happen, again, that's the beauty of finding out what really matters to people. Yeah.
We all know our leader at TPF likes to say change happens at the speed of trust, and that's
she is
absolutely
so
true.
right, especially in this instance.
That's right. Well, so one of the overwhelming things that we heard is that people really do love living North River Manatee County. And so what we heard is they love the family-friendly vibe, they love the schools, they appreciated the unique and diverse community, but as all communities, there are issues that need some attention and community action from people. Yeah. So whether you're a teacher from Rabonia, in agriculture from Duet, you're a stay-at-home parent in Palmetto, you're a high schooler in Parish, because we love talking to those youth, or a nurse from Memphis, what we really want to know is, how can people get involved in North River Manatee County Initiative? And most importantly, why should they get involved?
Yeah. Well, let's start with why they should get involved, and that is because now they know there are so many people across the entire community of North River that care deeply about how beautiful the community is. You're right. That's why most people either came and settled there or have come here recently to live there. The environment's lovely. There's so many opportunities. And to get involved, it's very easy to get involved. And I think the important thing to say is a lot of times you think you've got to get involved and there's no way out. You're involved forever, or I can't get in if I don't get in immediately. That's not the case here. Coming on board right now, it would be wonderful because you do have the opportunity to start right at the very beginning. However, there's always an open door for this initiative. And people mention to us, a lot of them, well, I can't, I'm really busy right now, or, I can't, I'm driving to a job in Sarasota, so I'm not always here. That doesn't necessarily matter. Getting involved in the initiative means bringing your voice, bringing your expertise, bringing what you can bring to the community. There will be established some teams Those are being fine-tuned right now, be announced soon, and that's how the work really starts across the community. Initially, there is a 2-day lab that folks have already been invited to. Those are people that attended roundtables, conversations, also some of the kickoff meetings that have already kind of said we're ready to get moving. And then from the lab, that Getting Started lab, which brings all of the Harwood Institute team here, along with being assigned some coaches from the Harwood team. It brings our Aspirations to Action team together. Bishop Parker, who has done a phenomenal job. I got to give a shout out to Amber Lamerson, who is managing the Bishop Parker side of the initiative and just has been really amazing at reaching out to everyone and making sure people are knowledgeable about where we're at. We've tried to use a lot of media to do that as well, but it's a lot of word of mouth. And so to get involved, you're reaching out to either Amber or here myself through the Patterson Foundation. And once the teams, these 3 teams are established, you might find yourself wanting to be involved in one of the teams. And as I kind of mentioned earlier, the teams start to work. They start to gather more public knowledge because even though we did over 20 community conversations and roundtables, we didn't hear from everybody, right? So what happens is the folks that start to work locally on the teams begin to do more outreach. They go out and they do more community conversations, gather more public knowledge, because while we have a report and we have some areas to work on, things change. People want to bring their voice up. There's specific things that happen. And so by gathering all of that public knowledge as a community member being on a team, once you gather all that, this is the key though, and I kind of want to mention it now, and that is that then you share that knowledge. And you were asking me earlier about, how the other leaders in the community have sort of taken the results. Well, they're gonna hopefully want to hear more, and they'll hear it from people that they know, people that they might meet that are new, but sharing that knowledge then allows everyone to come together, and then those small wins happen and create the change. So it's an initiative. It'll last at least in part deeply for over 3 years, but it's really a change forever. And that civic culture that you mentioned is so important for folks to be able to know how and where to have a voice. I think too many times people get frustrated by the time they get to a place where they can share their voice, and then sometimes it's not heard in the way that they really want it to. So this is another way that you can be a part of a team. You can find other people that feel, think same and different from you, and then you can come up with ways that your community can move forward. Yeah.
So the why could be, I want to make a difference in my community and come together through shared aspirations and beliefs.
Yes.
What else would be a why to get involved?
I think it's inherent in people. The why is they want to be heard. So I want to be able to be heard. But the real why is what really matters to you. It's really finding out deep, like Alicia, what really matters to you. How do you really want to be impactful in your community? And you want your family to be happy. And you want the people around you to be happy, to feel safe, to feel like they're making a difference. And so the why is really what's possible, and finding out who else cares. Getting all those people together so that you're moving forward in a shared vision for community change.
That sounds like wonderful community impact. And whether you're a 4th generation longtime resident, or you're a newcomer who's just loving living in Florida, or you're that youth in the area, or anyone in between, there's something for everyone to get involved.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Well, Cheri, before we wrap up today, is there anything else you want to add to the conversation?
I just love for people to get involved. Again, I think folks, I'll emphasize again. I already said this, I'm going to say it again. Don't be afraid to get involved. It doesn't mean you're giving up your lifetime. It doesn't mean you're investing money. It means you are investing a little bit of time. Whether it's one meeting a month you might be able to participate in, or multiple ones, because getting together, hearing other people, meeting other folks, I feel like knowing North River the way I do, and even myself just driving a couple miles to the north, it looks very different. It really looks very different, but try to peel back all of that construction and traffic and look at the beauty and see that other people are going to share what's really important to you, which is a community that cares about people and that makes sure that things are happening, especially for those generations coming up. So don't be afraid. You know, even just sending information in or listening, and I think that's the other important thing when our folks that are on teams start to say, we'd like to share the public knowledge with you, gosh, give them that time. Mm-hmm. Just listen, see how it impacts you, and then you might find that little path forward that you have to be a part of it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, that public knowledge, just for our listeners, is what we've heard from the community. Mm-hmm. So what's in the report.
Yes.
So it really is listening to all the voices in North River Manatee County.
Yeah.
So,
yeah.
Well, thank you so much for being here, Cheri. You are beloved as 35 years in the community and making such a difference in Manatee County government and now with the Patterson Foundation. We appreciate you personally.
It's very kind of you. It's been a pleasure and my journey to be able to work with such a great organization like the Patterson Foundation, and especially in an area of folks' aspirations, because that just doesn't that make you feel good about everything that you're doing. So thank you for what you do, Alicia.
You're welcome. You make the difference. So, listeners on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or another streaming service, please visit thepattersonfoundation.org or bishopparkerfoundation.org/North River. Both places are where you can find out how to get involved in this initiative and read the report that we discussed today. For those watching this podcast on YouTube, go ahead and scan the QR code on the screen to learn more or check out the description. Together, let's keep renewing and moving forward with a sense of possibility and hope.